Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. And I got to start with this from Cointelegraph. SEC Chair Paul Atkins says the SEC is considering an innovation exception from regulations to promote tokenization following the House passage of landmark stablecoin legislation. So it looks like they're going to give an exception from regulations to promote tokenization. Finally, we get to see tokenization pick up momentum in the United States. By the end of this year, tokenization is going to be absolutely booming, and it's going to bring a hell of a lot of value to XRP. You know, it's like one after another. Everything is falling in place for the real price moves on XRP. Dude, I just sold all my Bitcoin to more XRP. And then Finance Bull says, buying XRP now feels like buying Bitcoin in 2011. XRP does everything Bitcoin promised but couldn't deliver. Faster, cheaper, borderless. The upside is unreal. Can you see it too? We're going to see a lot of people shifting their money from Bitcoin into XRP. This comes from Jacob King. Breaking, the original Bitcoin mega whale who moved 80,000 Bitcoin on July 4th is now offloading the final 40,000 Bitcoin straight into a Galaxy digital wallet. The first 40,000 Bitcoin were already transferred earlier this week. As of now, the wallet is rapidly being drained in real time, with just 6,491.59 Bitcoin left. One by one, the giants are jumping ship before the coming crash. You are going to witness a massive shift of money from Bitcoin into altcoins. We've seen it in previous cycles. It is already beginning this time around. Everyone who thinks XRP can't flip Bitcoin has not been in crypto long enough. It happened before, and it will happen again. Once we take over Ethereum and XRP becomes the number 2 cryptocurrency, watch how different the narrative is going forward. Bitcoin maxis are going to tell you it's never going to happen. It happened in the past, and history always tends to repeat itself. I think XRP is coming for the number 1 spot in this cycle. This comes from Cyprus. XRP will flip ETH. This is not coming from some hype influencer. When leaders from Fidelity, Bitstamp, and Ripple speak, it's worth listening. These aren't small players. They shape the future of finance, and here they are telling you the researchers were always right. Now here we are at a new all-time high, and things are just getting started. Take a listen to this.
I think for 2025, this isn't just a 2025 year prediction, but we at Fidelity Digital Assets in our report wrote that we think it could be the start of a new era. So the turning from a lot of the first 15, 16 years of this, a lot of booms and busts, and now the new era of the institutional money, and where really this as a technology breaks out of just its own silo and it permeates all kinds of other industries. So if you look back at world-changing industries, they don't just change their one industry, they change all industries, they change the way people communicate, the way people organize their companies and structure their capital. I think that's where we're finally starting to get to. Now, this is going to take decades to play out, but that's my bold prediction, my big high-level one. And you can find all of our research at fidelitydigitalassets.com, and I am on X at Chris J. Kuiper.
Thank you, Chris. Well, Nate.
I was just going back to the first point that Chris made. Obviously, I second Jack's thoughts on stable coins. I think definitely could be a year of Bitcoin. So you could see that, if we get a strategic reserve, you could really see this game theory, play out, where you take this 2008 phenomenon basically from, out from the. It's going to be extremely interesting to watch if we get this strategic reserve basically and take a moment and think how far we've come, Bitcoin wise. Like, it really could be a crazy year, I think. So I could, you could easily see going towards kind of a, that 10 trillion mark overall on digital assets, if it gets really, the animal spirit start flowing a little bit, and with the good, macro background, macro cocktail, you really can envisage that happening. Now, this is kind of a very, I would say, a bullish thought, but yeah, why not? And then last but not least, like I'm going to have one equally contentious. I think that XRP will flip Ethereum this year. And I've been getting a lot of heat.
He even thinks XRP will flip Ethereum this year. But take notice how they said this is going to be a monumental year. This is when the switch begins to happen. I don't think there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Honestly, I thought all along, because the president met with Ripple back in 2017, 18, 19. And they knew back then what Ripple was. They knew what XRP is. Then Ripple met with the president before he became president last summer. And then all of a sudden, the narrative shifted away from a central bank digital currency over to a stable coin. And I think the president is thinking that most likely they will utilize something like XRP to strengthen the digital dollar. That's my honest theory on that. Because if you look at everything that's building up right now, it's all about stable coins. You still got to move those stable coins. You need a bridge currency. XRP is the bridge currency. It's going to emerge as the world's bridge currency. XRP shows no signs of a value bubble as Ripple technology outshines Bitcoin and Ethereum. This comes from Smoke. They detected a bubble in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but no bubble was detected in XRP. Eventually, bubbles pop. And that's why XRP, already being the number 3 cryptocurrency right now, makes a lot of sense, because it's going to go on to flip not only Ethereum, but it's also going to take the number 1 spot away from Bitcoin. It's just a matter of time. And this is going to be the big downfall of Bitcoin, in my opinion. Tether has printed another 1 billion out of thin air to inject into Bitcoin to keep it afloat. It's been a non-stop minting process for Tether over the last couple of days. They're really trying to keep the price of Bitcoin propped up. And eventually, now that we have stablecoin legislation coming in the United States, Tether's finished in the US. How is it going to continue to maintain its peg going forward? It's already out of the EU. It's going to be out of the United States. Next, it's going to be out of UK. It's going to be out of most of the Asia countries in a short period of time as well. Because most of these countries, they're just going to adopt the US stablecoin legislation. Legislation and regulations are not going to be different going from one country to another. They're going to be very similar, and that's going to lead to Tether eventually collapsing out and taking Bitcoin with it. XRP eyes $3.40 ahead of the ProShares XRP Futures ETF launch. Now, this launched today, and XRP was already at a new all-time high and into price discovery before this ETF even went live. And I want to see how much value comes from this in a short period of time. Because once we get that value, we already know then how the other spot ETFs will play out for XRP. And I expect all of those to get approved one after another. I'm just shocked that BlackRock has not filed for a spot XRP ETF yet. I'm expecting that to happen as well. Analyst says XRP is the biggest opportunity of our lifetime. He also goes on to say 100 XRP will eventually buy you this, a luxury mansion. You know, eventually things are going to be priced in XRP. I always thought that would be the end game. Maybe it takes 10 XRP to buy a new car. Maybe it takes 100 XRP to buy a house in the future, because XRP is not losing any momentum. If anything, it's gaining momentum, and now it's starting to be locked away by a lot of these companies. I expect a major surge like that to happen. A massive handful of companies locking away a substantial amount of XRP. I even think the escrow, a lot of that is going to end up in the hands of the Fed, the IMF, the central banks, and demand is going to continue to rise. So when you're going to buy something in the future, you will be pricing it out in XRP, because you'll be like, okay, so if I was to sell 10 XRP, I could buy a brand new car. If I sell 100 XRP, I could buy a mansion. And who knows? I think we will eventually get to that point. XRP price pattern tied to dollar index. Analyst calls it hidden rally. So everybody's looking at the DXY. When the DXY falls, crypto rises. We've seen it in every previous cycle. We are about to witness this happening again. They're expecting a major dip on the DXY. Everybody's talking about it right now. It's even on the mainstream media news. So when that dip happens, expect a major surge on the prices in crypto. Not just XRP, but other crypto as well. And some people are not happy about the crypto bills getting passed in Washington. Take a listen to Elizabeth Warren.
And guardrails to make sure that crypto isn't used to blow up our entire economy. So I'm very worried about that, but I want to add one more twist, and that is the Clarity bill has all those problems, but it also has a provision in it that would let any company listed on the New York Stock Exchange opt out of SEC regulation by just digitizing themselves, put themselves on the blockchain, and all of a sudden it turns out that Amazon or Meta or General Motors is no longer governed by the SEC.
This lady is so stuck in the past. It's not even funny. First of all, she doesn't even realize that right now they're already working on tokenizing the stock market. They want to take the U.S. stock market global. They want to open it up for investors from all around the world. And she also says that crypto could blow up the entire U.S. economy. Crypto is about to fix the U.S. economy. They just don't get it. And Brad Sherman is the worst. Take a listen to this.
You don't have to be a genius to know that this bill is an attack on working families. That's why the AFL-CIO says no, and they are scoring it.
You know, that guy thinks it's great that the U.S. can continue to print U.S. dollars out of thin air. And he always thinks that crypto is used for illicit activity. But the U.S. dollar is used for more illicit activity than anything else in the world, because it's totally untraceable, untrackable. There's no transparency with it. Somebody could go out right now, use $100 for illicit activity, and it would never be tracked or traced. Crypto changes that. What the problem is this: these people are getting rich off of their big banker friends, and they want that to continue. They don't even realize that a digital dollar is coming. Digital dollars versus digital euro. Why the US is aligning with stablecoins while the EU tightens its CBDC grip. The US sees stablecoins as a weapon for dollar dominance. Every dollar denominated stablecoin in circulation increases demand for US treasuries. That's good for the dollar. So instead of banning stablecoins, the US is embracing them. Meanwhile, Europe is taking the opposite approach. The EU is limiting the power of private stablecoins through strict MiCA regulations. Why? To make room for its own central bank digital currency, the digital euro. The US embracing stablecoins is great, and here's why. Because whenever you have to move those stablecoins around the world, you need a bridge, and XRP is the perfect bridge. It's the world's bridge currency. It can bridge anything of value. That's why I always told you you're holding the future when you're holding XRP. And even with the digital euro, which is a central bank digital currency, it's nothing more than a stable coin, but it's issued by the central bank. That also needs a bridge, XRP. You see where this is going now. This is something people used to talk about years ago, and people just didn't get it back then. Today, it's so in your face now. You see it happening in real time. And until it does happen, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.